Okay, so today we're going to be talking about mindsets and how we are spirit, soul, and body. And a lot of times it's really easy to just look at our body as something that just goes along with us. And, like we just see it
Mhm.
as ourselves. And in my own process, I've learned because I was always really hard on myself. I was always like wanting things to be perfect, putting demands on my body and just expecting it just to come into alignment with what I wanted and what I was doing. But I really had to make this shift in treating my body like a person, like an actual person that
Wow.
I'm in a relationship with. Like for me, I like the easiest way for me to identify that is to think like I am married to my body. And like
Wow.
really do an assessment of, is this an abusive relationship or is this a healthy relationship? Like, am I treating this person well, or
Wow.
am I putting these demands and expectations on this person, and being a really toxic person,
Wow.
And it was kind of that mindset shift of my body has needs. And just like I have needs, like my body has actual needs. And like seeing myself as like separate from my body and just being able to like treat my body like a person, like, are both of our needs getting met? Like, so for example, our body is so intricately and like wonderfully made that a lot of times it can just function without us really even giving any thought to it until something's wrong, right? And
Mhm.
so, but our body has these basic needs to do what it was created to do. Like it needs healthy fats, protein, and carbs. And it needs sleep. It needs hydration. It needs like minerals and vitamins. It has all of these needs so that it can do what it does flawlessly. And then, because a lot of times I'll just see my needs of like, oh, I made all these commitments. I've given my yes to all of these
Wow.
things. So a lot of times we'll say, oh, I don't have time to eat right. I don't have time to think about water. I have all these needs that I need to meet. And we're not actually considering that our body is a person at the table that we're meant to care for. Like
Mhm.
that is a relationship. And are we going to be a
Wow.
healthy person in that relationship? Or are we going to be toxic? Are we going to just say, no, I have my needs and you just need to go along with it? Like you don't get a say. And so
Wow.
I really had to like just forgive myself and ask my body to forgive me for being that way for the majority of my adult life, of just saying like, and treating it badly and like thinking badly about it because it wasn't keeping up with me, because it wasn't like, because I had all these unhealthy choices and unhealthy behaviors, but yeah, I was taking that out on my body because it wasn't
Mhm.
coming into alignment with those decisions and choices. And so it really helped me like in my wellness journey, like since I started with Andrea and working with Carly, and just really taking a look at what is my mindset about my body as a person, not just something I have to put up with or something I'm either happy about or unhappy about, but like just really putting it into this context of a marriage and like a commitment. Like I am committed to having a healthy relationship with my body. And I'm going to check in with my body like, hey, all of these things that I'm committed to, like, is this doable to get your needs met too? Like, what do you need so that we can function together and live our best life and live like a whole balanced life together,
Wow.
to where you're not to where I'm not like being the toxic person in this relationship and just like, not getting the sleep, not making
Wow.
time for like nutritious meals. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
That is like so amazing
Yeah,
because
go ahead.
I mean, and we've had a lot of conversations about this too, but just that depth, I've never actually thought about it to the depth that you just explained, of really treating it like you're in a marriage essentially, because we're always going to have our bodies. Like
Right.
we're always going to, while we're on this earth, like,
Mhm.
and and I think our culture is just, I think we're in a day of time right now where people are very, can be very image focused and not actually health focused, to
Right.
where we're not, like, we're thinking about what we want our bodies to do for us, but we're not actually treating them the way that they need to be treated.
Right.
And so this is like, this is amazing. This is
Yeah.
really
And
sinking in for me too.
yeah, even along those lines with body image, like if you think about a marriage, like, if your husband was like, man, if your thighs were smaller, I would just love you. Like
Yeah.
if you looked like Angelina Jolie, or whoever the actor is or whatever that we
Yeah.
compare ourselves to, and we say, oh, if only this, then I could love myself. But you're really saying to a person, almost like in a marriage, like, if you were only this, then I could love you. And we would automatically call that kind of relationship, that kind of marriage, like super abusive and emotionally abusive, really toxic.
Totally.
But yet we find that it's okay to do this to ourselves. It's okay to have this comparison of like, this is what you need to measure up to. And whether your needs are being met or not, like, I will love you if you get to this point. And it's almost like this dangling carrot, but the cost of going after those things is treating the person of your body just terribly. And like, so it just goes back to like asking yourself, like, what does a healthy relationship look like? Even,
Mhm.
because what we think, what we speak, what we believe about our body matters, even in our health journey. Like, I know when I first started the program with Andrea, I was like, okay, what do I have to do to get to a point where I'm just not having these symptoms? And then I get to go back to my normal life. Like, I always had this timeline of like, oh, I don't have to do this for the rest of my life. And it
Yeah.
almost created this tension in my body. Like, I was like, just get there already, because I want to quit
Mhm.
sacrificing. I want to
Wow.
quit making all these choices that I wouldn't normally make and get back to normal. And it's almost like that abusive relationship of like, I just want to like get you to be what I need, and your needs like don't even matter. And so there was like this shift in my process of like, no, this is a relationship. Like, this isn't just this quick fix to just repair the hormones and get back to normal. This is like, I've been an abusive person in this relationship, and I haven't even considered my body's needs. And it was
Wow.
just this huge wake up call of, these are just essential things of seeing that person, seeing what those needs are, and continuing that commitment of, yeah, your needs have a place in my decision making. They have a place in my
Mhm.
day, in my time. And that's not to say like that we have to do things perfectly and we just always have to be on top of it. Because I think in any relationship, there's seasons where there's just all these things that are thrown at you, and there's things that need to get done. And so you do have to find that middle ground of um, like, let's compromise. Like, how can we continue the things that we have to keep going and still have some needs met? So like,
Wow.
let's say you want to go out with friends and you want to have like just a treat meal. It's like, okay, body, I want this. This is a need that's going to fill up my social cup. So what can I do ahead of time or afterwards that's
Mhm.
going to meet your needs? Like, maybe
Wow.
I want to enjoy a drink or a dessert or something like that. And it's like, okay, well, maybe leading up to it, I can give my liver nourishing foods, or I can do extra castor oil packs,
Yeah.
or just being really proactive to see the need ahead and be like, hey, both of our needs are getting met. I'm not depriving myself of things that I enjoy or that I want or that are fun, but I'm also like meeting the needs that you have, you know? So it was just really this, when I started to see my body as like a marriage, and just how I see my husband and how I love him and I have to consider him whenever I do things throughout my day, or just, you know, working on tasks and stuff like that. I consider him. And so it's really just having that mindfulness of, I'm going to consider my body. This isn't just a process to heal what's been damaged and get back to, you know,
Yeah.
abusive behavior, but it's like, no, I'm going to retrain my brain to really seeing this as a committed relationship, and really speaking kindly to my body, and willing to ask myself hard questions like, why do I make certain choices? Like,
Mm.
why do I feel like because, you know, like, our bodies don't need refined sugar, they don't need coffee, they don't need um like fatty foods or fast foods or anything like that, you know. They need like the healthy fats, carbs, and nutrients and all of those things. But we have this in our perception, like, oh, I need this because I'm actually, instead of like actually looking at, I'm making destructive choices and I'm being abusive, and this is what I need to maintain that. It's really like, why do I need that? Like, is there something in my life that I'm not willing to take a look at? Is there a boundary
Mhm.
that I need to set that I'm afraid to set? Um, because in any relationship, you have to have those conversations. You have to give attention to the areas that actually need healing, that need grace, you know? And so when we approach our bodies from that perspective, you know, it
Yeah.
calls things higher. Like, I mean, it calls us higher to actually do the hard work of um like the soul part of the relationship between, you know, body and
Mm.
spirit, you know. um so it just kind of did this whole mind shift thing with me about having a healthy marriage, committed relationship with my body. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's incredible. And I'm kind of curious as to like the process that it took you to get there and kind of like how those light bulb moments came
Yeah,
for you. Would you be up for sharing a
yeah,
bit about that?
I think a lot of and actually a lot of it came from our conversations of just
Oh.
really asking myself, um and just being mindful of choices, being mindful, because like for me, a lot of the abusive relationship that I had with my body came with emotional eating. You know, it came with like, there's an area at or about myself or about my life situation that I don't want to take a look at. So I'm going to
Mm,
deflect. I'm going to
wow.
like have these defense mechanisms, and I'm going to numb myself so that my body doesn't get a voice, or this hurt doesn't get a voice, or whatever it was that I was avoiding wasn't I didn't have to deal with it. But in exchange, it really came at the cost of my health. It came at the cost of sleep or my peace, or, you know. And so I think just really taking a self assessment to be honest with, are there areas in my life where I'm making certain choices to protect an area that I don't want to take a look at, you know? And just even practically, like when it comes to our, you know, just our hormones and like making those things come into balance, like I
Mhm.
think breaking off shame of just, I like, how could I think when I started the process, I was 39. I'm like, how can I make it to 39 and not have any awareness of any of these areas in my life? And so I really had to like break off the shame of just even like acknowledging that I was abusive towards my body, like,
Wow.
and fully owning that, and fully saying, yeah, the way I talk to my body, the way I think about my body, I would be a terrible person if I ever did that to a friend
Wow.
or my husband. Um, but yeah, I make it okay. And I really had to ask myself, what areas of my life am I punishing myself for and why?
Oh my
You know?
gosh, that's like huge. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but it really just came out of like asking the hard questions and being willing to take a look at that body relationship. Was I even appreciative to my body for functioning? Like when I put it through the ringer trying to like get through an event or get through a really busy day, at the end of the day, was I like, thank you, body, like for
Yeah.
hanging in there with me, even though I didn't meet all of your needs. I really appreciate that you showed up for me today. Like just those, I mean, it seems so silly, but if you think of it like a marriage and your husband did all of that for you, like let's say he just on very little sleep, he
Yeah.
cooked all the meals, took care of the kids, did the laundry, and did all of these things. And at the end of the day, it was like, wow, why couldn't you do more? Like, why are
Oh,
you
yeah.
tired right now? Like, if we were to do that, but there's like an acknowledgement, there's something that comes alive in you when you acknowledge and you appreciate and you live from that place of gratitude that there is this partnership, there is like showing up for yourself, your body like doing what it's created to do. And so I don't know, does that make sense?
Wow. Yeah, and it's just I'm like, as you're talking, I'm thinking a lot about even just prevention, like disease prevention and prevention with injuries, and just even just the culture of like excessive working out, and just how then that can put our body in such a high stress state, and we're not being mindful of like, okay, maybe I should take a rest day, and then we get injured, and so everything you're saying is like really amazing for prevention as well, or even when as
Yeah,
we age and get older, because so much chronic disease can occur from simply just not being aware or not actually
right.
listening to the signs that like our body's giving us.
Right. No, it's so
So
true. And just giving it a voice to say, like, even just in the morning and checking in, like, what do you need today?
mm,
Like, what is one of your
okay.
needs? It doesn't have to be all of the needs because I think it takes time to repair that kind of relationship. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's times like where I was consciously like, okay, body, I'm gonna be really hard on you, but I'm gonna commit that at the end of
Oh,
this task, I'm gonna meet your needs. And that wasn't probably the healthiest thing. Like the healthier thing would have been like, okay, we have this crazy task. What in this day what need can I meet? Even if it's just one, But it was a process of like,
yeah.
I think it starts with that acknowledgement of that there
Mhm.
are needs there and that this is a committed relationship, to making those gradual steps of what need can I meet today? Or even just acknowledging um, that some of the things that you've said yes to are what is contributing to
Wow.
like toxic abusive relationship between your body and yourself. And so I think it's just really that mindfulness. That's really where it started for me, and I'm still in the middle of that journey of just really
Mhm.
finding the balance and really being conscious of it. um but I think for just the women in the alumni program, um I would just want to challenge you, like what's one area of if you were to see, like if you had to picture it like a relationship between you and a spouse, like your husband, and you were trying to mend a toxic relationship. Like, what's one area that you can start with where you're owning something and you're acknowledging a need, and really breaking off the shame of that, because I feel like shame is such a present emotion where there's so much resistance of taking ownership. And then we go to this negative place of like, oh, I'm such a bad person. Like, I've blown it. There's no coming back from here. Like, why even bother? Why try? But it's like, no, I can take ownership. Like, I really had to cover everything with grace. Like, I had to tell
Mhm.
myself, this is a non-judgment zone. This is not a time of condemnation and tearing myself down. But this is like, gonna give myself grace. I'm gonna give myself permission to really take a look at things, to really own things, because there's so much freedom in that acknowledgement. There's so much freedom in owning it and just being honest with yourself, that it gives a place for that healing to come, for those honest conversations to come, and for truth to really like nourish us in that transition, in that transformation. So yeah, I just want to put it out there that I'm just going to challenge women um to start with one acknowledgement. Like, what is one thing you need to take ownership in your relationship with your body? And um is there something that you need to surrender or even like repent for in this process, even of healing your hormones, of like putting this pressure on your body to just get there so you can get back to your normal life,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. Do you have anything
Yeah.
to add to that?
That was so good. I'm feeling so encouraged. I'm like, I need to do this, and I think it's just so easy to forget as well. Like, wow, this is really a need, especially, September is like go time for so many people, and just fall can be a great season, but just really hectic. And so I just love like that, just taking that action step, because it's
Mhm.
just growing in awareness, which,
Right.
like you said, is a process, which is really encouraging. So, and I love how you kind of narrowed in on shame as well, how shame isn't a motivator
Right.
at all. It's
Mhm.
like
It
just
never
brings,
works.
it never works. And so it's like not even worth it. It's
Right.
but I love how you said that the counter to shame is simply just taking ownership and be like, no, I can
Mhm.
change this now. This doesn't make me a bad person.
Yeah.
It's just, and maybe it comes from ways we've been raised or just different experiences we've
Mhm.
gone through. So
Right. Yeah. Because we can just live through filters of like, this is normal. This is normal to think of my body this way. This is normal to
wow.
push myself and do all the things, because our society is just like, like, be productive, be, proactive, all these things, like get something done, be successful. Um and so we think that we're doing the right thing by prioritizing all the external things, and at the cost of our health. And I think that's why our culture is one of the sickest, out there,
Oh,
the American
yeah.
culture. And even like, there's just so much of that pressure, but we get to choose whether we buy into it or not, or we prioritize like what's truly healthy, what's truly successful, what's truly the life we want, So, yeah. So yeah, I think it's just taking that proactive step and starting somewhere, So yeah.
Wow.
Do you have
So
any like
good.
parting like conclusive thoughts or anything before?
No, I think you totally nailed that on the head. And I'm like, all right, I need to do some reflecting. This is
I
so
know.
good. But I feel super encouraged. And I think that everyone needs to hear this message. So thank you for sharing your part and
Absolutely.
your experience.
Yeah. So, just for those of you who are watching the replay, if you need extra support, if you need someone to just kind of be the middleman, like almost like couples therapy, where you need somebody to sit and just be like, I don't know how to have this conversation with my body without shame coming in, without, you know, defense mechanisms or self-protection or any of those things. I just don't know how to have this conversation. Myself, Carly, or Andrea, we're all here to help you process that, to not give shame a voice in this conversation, but to really just have a healthy way of acknowledging that and finding a new pathway for the mind to go down to be able to process those things and build that kind of healthy relationship. So feel free to drop a comment in this post and we will reach out to you and we would love to help you with that process. So have a good day, ladies.
Thanks, Liz.
Yeah.